What's up, YouTube? It's Angel Uchiha here. If you are new here, then welcome. If you're not, then of course, welcome back. I want to thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, all the shit that y'all do to keep this channel running, functioning, thriving. Y'all are much appreciated. So as y'all can see, I'm here with my good friend Dane. We're going to get into some interesting topics. Have a great build with you guys. Dane, you want to introduce yourself? Shout out your socials.
Yeah, Dane. One of the biggest socials is TikTok, Meet the Grays. The other one is YouTube. We got The Change is coming, which is very, very pivotal. The change is coming. We post a lot of different things on there. You might catch your workout videos. You might catch your little kind of political funny videos, or there's not one set thing. Just come and enjoy.
Okay, bet. And I'll also make sure I remember to drop our links in the description. So for anybody that you just want to go straight to the link, it'll be down there for you guys. So we were discussing a topic that I had got into on my TikTok, and it was the topic of women finding their happiness. Or me personally, I believe that women find their happiness when we stop centering purity culture in our lifestyle. And my main point was that the purity culture was created by men for men, not necessarily with a woman's goals, ambitions, feelings, and her idea of self care in mind. Um, so you had dropped a comment on that post, but I wanted to hear more of like your initial thought and reaction when you heard it.
So there were obviously a few things, but one of the first point was you had said um, that if you actively go against it, trying to rebel, that you'd be basically still on the spectrum, just on the other side
Mm-hmm.
of purity culture. Even if you're in rebellion, you're still moving to someone else's beat. That thought made me think of this other video that I've heard when we were talking about the mindset of a person who simply moves with trends, right? How oftentimes you have people who are like, "Oh, I don't follow trends," and they're genuine people who just don't actually think something's interesting, or think something's interesting or not, and goes with it or doesn't go with it. Or a person who's actively like, "Oh, everyone's doing this, I'm gonna do something else." You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And at that point, you're still following a trend. You know, to be honest, that thought made, when you said that, it made so much sense, because even though, as we might disagree on who started purity culture, you know obviously I definitely believe that there is definitely a lot of skin in the game when it comes to men, and the idea of purity culture, right? If you have a woman and wanting her to be pure or whatever, and you creating these stigmas to try to force her into that position, um I feel like that is very true. But then we also have the idea of women and setting their own standard for women. Oh, well, women are supposed to go and stop, baby. Women are supposed to do this, and women are supposed to do that. And I do this and you don't. The whole time, the woman that's trying to, proverbially shit on the other woman is doing everything that she's saying that women are not supposed to do. You know what I mean? She's just hiding it better, or everyone just doesn't know, what's going on. So there's like this constant sense of I wouldn't even describe it as competition, because it's not real competition. It's more of belittling and trying to look away in front of others. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what, in my opinion, that's what purity culture really kind of takes its dive at. It's the appearance, how you are perceived, you know. And it's strange because, talking to that point, there are people who, you know, they seem like they're not quote unquote pure, right? Maybe their language might be a little vulgar, or their verbiage might not be something that's appetizing, or even the image that they have in front of others might not be pure. However, if you actually look into their lives, they're more pure than the people who yell from the rooftops, oh, you're not supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do that, and they're abstaining from this and abstaining from that and not doing this and not doing that. And it's simply could be their upbringing, how they were raised, you know um or it could be just simply their um own virtues, to keep them to that standard. But it's not the verbiage, it's not the social pressure, it's just their own desires.
Hmm.
And I think that's when you said a point that was pretty key in that for me too: authenticity. When you're moving with authenticity and this is who you really are, then at this point you're following a trend.
Cool. You went black there for a
So
second.
that's fine. You're Wait, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. You did like
Hold
go.
on.
The screen went like
Hold
black
on
for a
one
second.
second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. I do apologize.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yep, I think we're back on
Um,
track.
okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes. So as I said, that's the biggest point that you kind of spoke to for me was just the authenticity part.
Hmm.
To me, to be honest, if a woman, and I'm not gonna say we disagree at this point because I feel like we still agree. If a woman is doing it genuinely, but if she's in herself still trying to hold up to some standard that society has set,
Hmm.
then she's not necessarily happy just because it's genuine. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because she might also feel like, man, not that this is impossible to maintain, but she might not feel free in herself.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Even though it's coming from a genuine place, like I don't value this and I don't value that. There are times that you might have desires that are like opposed to your values.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you're human.
Yeah.
But if you're abstaining so harshly because you're like, well, I was raised this way, or, I don't want them to think of me this way, or whatever the case may be, you're then digging into your own happiness in order to try to maintain something that is more of a facade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if a woman is like, okay, you know what, I want to be with one man. Um, Before she meets the one man, you know what I mean? Like, what if she
Exactly.
gets with this one man and then he's not the answer?
Exactly.
You see where I'm coming from? So now it's like,
And
oh no, I
that's.
don't, I don't want to break up with him. I don't want to increase my quote unquote body count, or
Hmm.
whatever the case may be. But now you're stuck in a dead end relationship with someone you're not happy with. That's
Hmm.
not fulfilling your needs, all because of an idea of what you may look like.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was speaking to was the limiting of oneself. Like I think what I'm targeting here is the difference between someone who is internally motivated and someone who is externally motivated. I feel like
Right.
a lot of women are externally processing their values, meaning they're not sitting with their self. They're not sitting with their personal life experiences and reflecting and learning from their personal lessons and coming to a conclusion of, hey, I think this is the best way to operate my life moving forward. A
Right.
lot of women are just regurgitating, just knee jerk regurgitating stuff that was drilled into their head. And I know this because I've sat with a lot of women, being a matriarchal woman, being a woman who is, involved with sister circles, sisterhoods. I sit with a lot of women and I talk to them and we have hours worth of conversations. And, a woman will say something like, oh yeah, I believe in having a low body count or whatever. Right. And you can simply just ask a person why, and they struggle to explain why, or when they do explain why, they just start regurgitating something. And this is why I said I feel that purity culture is heavily male centered, not
Mhm.
because it's only men who speak on it, because to your point earlier, there are a lot of women who do enforce and uphold purity culture to try to make themselves feel better. I say
Right.
that because most of the time, purity culture is heavily based in patriarchal religions. So when people say purity, right, and you
Hmm.
ask them what does that mean, usually they're talking about virginity, right? Usually they're talking about having a low body count. Usually they're talking about saving themselves for marriage.
Right.
Usually they're talking about modesty. And then when you start asking them these whys, they start referencing the Bible, their Quran, the church, some type of
The
idea of
Torah.
what it means, the Torah, some type of idea of what it means to be a pure and what's the word? What do they? The a pure woman in essence.
Right.
And usually these sources are very patriarchal religions. These were not
Right.
spaces. The Bible was not curated by women. It wasn't the women who sat down and decided what scrolls would be considered canon and which scrolls would be thrown out, right?
Right.
It wasn't the women who decided um, what languages these texts would be translated into. And it wasn't the women who made the intentional misinterpretations to push their specific agenda. This was all done by men and
Right.
kind of Caucasian men for the most part. So I'm saying all
Right.
that to say it may be a woman saying we should save ourselves to marriage. But then when you ask that woman why, she starts regurgitating European male programming.
Right.
So um, that was my stake there with that. I definitely think authenticity is extremely important, but it requires a very deep level of true soul searching. It requires a lot of shadow work. It requires a lot of being very aware of yourself. And if you're constantly looking for external factors to come in and teach you or show you or guide you, um, there's going to be a good chance that you find most of your values are not actually curated to your experience on this earth. They're coming from some type of desire to be validated. Like you said, a lot
Right.
of women will use purity culture just to make themselves feel better than the next woman,
Right.
even if that's not even their actual reality. And
Right.
oh, that's what I was gonna say. A lot of men, let me say this. Men have their pure intentions behind calling out simps. Women have their pure intentions behind calling out pygmies, right? And
Right.
one of the reasons why we call out pygmies is because a lot of pygmies are simply women who are trying to get picked. Okay. And a certain type of woman who's trying to get picked can present herself as this pure, holier than thou, naysayer. She may present herself that way because she knows that it makes her look good and it makes her look better than the average woman. But that's not who she actually is. And you don't find that out until you've chosen this woman and you're in a deeper relationship or entanglement with her. And then you find
Hmm.
out, wait a minute, this bitch entire personality was for social media,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, I'll give it back to you from there. But yeah.
No, I'm listening because I definitely get the perspectives of what you're saying. Um, Oftentimes that is the reality, and it's so crazy because this is, I wouldn't say the first time I've ever heard the term "pick me," but this is the
Hmm.
first time I've ever heard it used in this regard.
Hmm.
Like I never knew that Simps and pick me's were just different genders of basically the same thing in a sense.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, but that's crazy that you put it that way because once again it really is that it's pick me for whatever reason, but it's more about the fact of picking and less about the fact of who that man is.
Hmm.
They rather the choice. Oh, you chose me. They
Hmm.
don't really want the person, it's the choice. That's why it's like, oh, I'm getting married. Doesn't even matter to who.
Don't
So I'm
matter
getting
who.
married. Yeah, it's I'm getting married. I got a house, I got kids. Okay, what does he do?
Ring, my
Not who he
ring.
is. What does he do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a doctor. He's a lawyer. He's an entrepreneur. He's whatever the case may be. These things become the hallmarks for the purity culture because if this is your perspective on the reason for the choices, and the value of then the choosing, then it's never about who the person is. And in society, I've recognized that that goes, you know, so many ways, right? For the man, it's okay. Well, how much people has she been with, right? Um, how does she look, right? How many kids does she have? How many baby daddies she has? These are the things that determines her value. It's never what does she do.
Mhm.
It's never her profession. It's never how much she makes. If you're with a woman because of how much she makes, then that says less about who you are as a man in today's society.
Mhm.
Then, in the reverse, when we're asking, about the man that she's with, it's rarely ever how does he look.
Mhm.
That's like the last question. First question is, what does he do?
What does he do?
Second question is, does he has kids?
Mhm.
Third question is the finances, right? Probably the
Mhm.
first question, but that's those things are kind of tied hand in hand.
Mhm.
And then maybe we might worry about his appearance.
Mhm.
And if the other two are good or three are good, then the appearance doesn't even matter. He makes a
Yeah.
billion dollars a year. Oh, okay, well, it doesn't matter that he's out of shape, that he's not an alpha male. And when I say alpha male, know that I mean that in the utmost healthy way that you can have that, because that term is thrown around so often. Oh, I'm an alpha male. And it's like, dude, you just a bully that's aggressive that pick on the weak.
Yeah.
You're not an alpha
You just
male. You
angry.
picking on the weak.
You just angry. That's it.
You know what I mean? To me, an alpha male is somebody who protects. You see somebody getting bullied, you stand in the way, regardless if it's something that you think you can handle or can't handle.
Mhm.
If you only pick on fights or pick on people that you think you can beat, there is no way you can call yourself a true leader.
Mhm.
Because what happened when there's a battle in front of you that you might not think you can win? All of
Mhm.
a sudden, you a beta, right? That man
Mhm.
has that man has bitched you. So
Mhm.
if someone could bitch you, how could you say you're an alpha male? Excuse my language, but how could you say you're alpha male?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so, but like I said, these are the things. It's like, okay, well, money, finances, it's rarely ever how this person looks and how they carry themselves. First,
Yeah.
like I said, we talk about this. The idea that oh well, he's aggressive and he's dominant, makes all this money. That doesn't tell me anything about who he is as a person.
Yeah. His character is
Okay,
very important.
very important because he might seem aggressive until we're in a situation where you actually need him to stand up and protect you.
Mhm.
He's quick to bully you, but he's
Mhm.
fast to shut up when someone else says something.
Yeah. And I
You
seen
know?
that. I witnessed that experience in real life. It's not a fun experience to
Oh
realize
no.
that.
Oh my
But
gosh. I had
but
someone
yeah.
tell me about it. It was this young lady. She said, "Oh, this guy is always whatever with her, and they're at this like, bar slash restaurant or sporting bar or whatever, and they're at the counter and they're sitting down, and this guy comes up. He has his shirt off. He's like, "Hey, this is my seat." And the guy's like, "No, we were sitting here before. We didn't see anybody here." And he's like, "No, but this is my seat." And then this guy gets up and like, "Come on, babe, let's leave because I see what he's trying to get into." And
Mm.
I'm just in my head. I'm not telling you that you got to start violence and punching on people, but if you
Have a
make
little bit though.
somebody make you get out of your seat to go, you and your girl at that, it's not even like you by yourself. Not saying it's okay if you by yourself, but you have to understand. Inside her eyes, she look at you almost like how your kids look at you. Like my dad is a superhero. My man is a superman. He's gonna
Mhm.
protect me. He's gonna keep me safe. So that moment where you let that card go and say, "No, this is too much for me. I'm not gonna tangle with this guy, or I'm not gonna upset him." Dude, you have now allowed her to see you in the most unprotected position possible. So
Mhm.
now, if something happens at work with someone disrespecting her, hurting her, whatever, she's not thinking of calling you.
Yeah.
She's thinking of calling her dad, maybe her
I'm
older
calling
brother.
everybody but you. The cops. You the last person I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call you
The
after the
last
fact and
person.
let you know, babe, I got into some shit. I had to call my brother. Had to call the
Yeah,
cops.
he
Got
took care
crazy.
of it. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's
Don't
good.
worry. Nothing's gonna come back on you. Don't worry.
Hmm.
And I prefer it where your woman is like, you know what? I'm not even gonna call my man for you because if I do, I'm afraid of what he's gonna do to you, and I don't want him in any trouble.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? In that regard, because she has that much faith that you're her protector, that she's more concerned about the person offending her than you being hurt.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of discipline on her end too. That was another conversation that we had got into a while back. Um, was as women, we have to be very careful not to use our protectors
Yeah.
without discretion, right?
Right.
Um, and that's something that, like, Sun Tzu talks about that in the Art of War, about being very careful with how you use your soldiers, not
Right.
just calling upon your soldiers and throwing them out there just because you can. And
Right.
I'm talking to both matriarchal and patriarchal women. This goes both ways. So whether you're
Right.
in the more submissive role, the more, damn, don't stress, my man is my protector. Love that for you. Whether you're in a position where you are an authority figure and you have the ability to equip men who are your protectors, you cannot just be just popping at the mouth, arguing with everybody, getting into it. "Oh, I'm going to call my man." Now he's in jail. Now he's
Hmm.
shot because they didn't stop making guns when your man got one. Okay.
Right.
They didn't stop making a gym when your man went. Okay. So they're all
That's the truth. That's the truth.
so it's just a reality, and then everybody don't play fair, especially in 2026. A lot of niggas, you beat their ass, they going to pop the
2026.
trunk.
Of
Like,
course. Of
so
course.
I'm just saying that to
Because you have to
say,
remember, sometimes that man
hmm,
also has people who he, is looked upon a certain way too. So he also is trying to protect his, what I mean, pride or ego,
hmm,
But I wanted to add that one point too, when you said in the matriarchal society, there are beta males, and I use this term because there's beta, sigma, there's all type of males, but the most commonly looked down upon is the beta male. And there are men who go to their women when things get tough. Oh, babe, can you go cuss her out? Oh, babe, this girl tried me at work. Can you go fight her? There are He probably won't go to her for a man issue, like a man that might have tried him or whatever, because maybe that makes him look less. But he'll go to her for like handling a woman. Why would you then, in the same regard, like you said, sending your soldiers? Now you're sending your woman out to go do your battling for you. And yes, you should not be fighting or battling
yeah,
a woman. That's not the point. But the point is, why would you then put your woman in a position to get hurt if you call yourself her protector?
yeah, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense, and it does make me look at you as like, why are you even 9 times out of 10? In my observation, when a man finds himself arguing back and forth with a female, it's because he's somewhere he's not supposed to be at, or he's doing something he's not supposed to be doing. In a sense of, there are very few situations where it makes sense if you're going to work, if you're going to handle business, if you're going to the store. If there's very few situations where it makes sense for you to even be standing in a female face arguing back and forth. What are
Right.
you doing? Um,
Now,
walk your ass away. Walk
as a
leave.
man, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. There
Hmm.
are moments where um, women are going to disrespect you because they know you ain't going to do nothing back.
Hmm.
But
Very true.
when you when you have nothing to prove to a woman, those moments fly by you.
Hmm.
They fly by you like water off a duck's back. And I'm gonna say the reason why is because in your existence that didn't make you smaller.
Hmm.
Okay, she
And
got
that's what
slick
I
in the
mean.
mouth, but why does that make you smaller as a man? That's that's just her doing her. That doesn't make you smaller. But if that makes you smaller, that means that your value is in other people. It's not in you.
Hmm. Yeah, and
You
that's what
know
I
that
mean. Like, why are you engaging that deep to where, like, because it has to get deep for you to pick up the phone and call your woman. Like, I need you to
Right.
come up here. Like, why are you
Yeah.
even getting that deep? Because even as a woman, just on a
Right.
daily basis, I could go to the doctor's office. Just the other day, I was uh, going to get fingerprints for my insurance license, and
Mm-hmm.
the the clerk had an attitude. And she said some little slick shit, whatever. Like, I don't care. I go about my day. Am I gonna
Mm-hmm.
sit there and argue and oh, let me come across the counter and let me start calling people because somebody said
Right.
something slick, you
Right.
know? And so
Right.
that's ridiculous as a woman. As a woman, I'm not doing that. But as a
Right.
man, you doing that? Something ain't right.
You know what's crazy? Um, the prison is filled with men and women who think
Hmm.
that that moment was worth it and then recognize that it wasn't. The graveyard is filled with people who can't even think that moment wasn't worth it anymore. They're gone.
They gone. Hmm.
So oftentimes when moments happen, I think beyond the moment, right?
Hmm.
But when there's protection that's necessary, i.e., someone's trying to, hurt my woman or whatever the case may be, um, that that logic of the moment after is important then too, because now the moment after is how she sees me,
Hmm.
how she feels around me. Does she feel protected in her own skin? Does she feel safe? Those things, and sometimes that could come across as like simp culture, right? To a certain extent, like, oh, yeah, da, da, da. But you have to understand you are valued in your own essence of existence. But when you're in relation, in covenant with someone, your essence of who you are is also valued in her eyes. If
Hmm.
she doesn't see you as a valuable man and she's with you every day and every night,
Hmm.
that value then transfers over because that level of lack of respect is going to continue to regurgitate itself in your life and
Hmm.
it will have an effect on your esteem.
Hmm.
So if you plan on staying with that person, you do need to make sure that your value is at least close to how you see yourself in that person's eyes. Which means in these moments, when something happens, it's like, hey, nah, don't talk to my girl like that, bro. You don't gotta disrespect someone or go crazy,
Right.
but she needs to know that you're gonna stand up for her.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? If she calls you because somebody disrespected her crazy at the job and they're still there, pull up. You ain't
Yeah.
gotta pull up with your guns blazing and killing people and fighting people. But at least you could do is be like, hey man, my wife said that you was talking to her out of pocket, man. Come on, bro. That's a woman.
Yeah.
Something. Because
Yeah.
sometimes people do things because they think that this person doesn't have anyone that cares about him enough to stand up for them.
Stand up for them. And sometimes you could show up and de-escalate. Like,
Oh
protection
my
doesn't
God. That
always
is
look
true.
like showing up and escalating. If a
Oh
nigga
my
up there
gosh.
yelling at your woman, that don't mean you got to pull up shooting. Like, you could, like
Yes.
you said, simply step
Yes, you're
in
right.
and pull him aside. Hey, brother, like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a
Like,
female.
come on, bro.
We out here looking crazy in front of these white people.
Yeah.
It's okay to have certain conversations with people and
Right.
just de-escalate the situation, but it still
Yeah.
shows that you're present. It shows that you're not afraid to address an
Yes.
injustice. And I think sometimes we think the only way to not look like a bitch is to become extremely aggressive and volatile. And
Hmm.
that's not the only form of standing on business. In fact, that's the weakest form of standing on
Hmm.
business, to be
Can we,
honest.
can we, can we add that in that space? That's also why in society there's this wrong image of what a real man looks like. Oh, I'm a real man. I'm a real nigga, or real whatever. And they try to tie that synonymous with what a leader is, a true
Hmm.
leader, aggression. And to be honest, oftentimes it's not that at all. It's not aggression, it's courage and it's
Yeah.
bravery. It's the ability to stand in the paint, not the ability to make a war. Anyone can make war.
Hmm.
Anyone can fire a gun and end up in prison.
Yeah.
Anyone can get hit by bullets and end up in the grave.
Hmm.
But not everyone can lead and not everyone can protect.
Yeah.
And so when you are that person for somebody, it doesn't necessarily like I'm gonna show you another situation. A while back I was dating somebody and she got into a bit of a back and forth. Now she was a little more hot headed than myself, but I knew to myself she wasn't wrong because of the fact that there were reviews online about this supposed security guard. He
Mhm.
was, very out of pocket, very disrespectful to women, not
Mhm.
men, to women.
Mm.
And she needed to go back to that place again. And I didn't feel comfortable with her going back to that place without me being present
Mhm.
because of that interaction. He shut the door in her face. He locked the door. You can't come in here. And while letting other people in to be serviced. I guess maybe they might have had appointments, but it's a way to go about things.
Yeah.
So, I made my way down there. I think the next day or day after, something like that. It was not like in the same day though. I made my way down there. Um, Now, when we first came, the person wasn't there.
Mhm.
He wasn't present, but he eventually came from the back, and she's like, "That's him." Now, not that's him, go get him,
Mhm.
but more so like, I don't even think she said that was him. I think she just kind of like the way she described him. I seen him, and I'm like, "Hey, is that the guy that you're talking about?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, okay, cool. So I got up and I went to the front, and there was a lady sitting in the front. And when she was sitting in the front, I simply spoke to her, "Hey, I just want to get his supervisor's information, who's his, whatever." And she's like, "Oh, well, I'm his supervisor," or something of the sort. And I'm like, "Okay, no problem. I just want to make a complaint about what happened before." And the guy's like, "Well, why do you want to complain on me? I've never seen you before in my life." I said, "No, I'm complaining because of what you did with her yesterday."
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And in doing so, um, I didn't escalate with him, didn't raise my voice. He didn't raise his voice. Of
Mhm.
course not. Because once again, this is a bully being called out.
Mhm.
And it was not in a confrontational manner, it was a very professional manner. But the way I look happened to kind of elicit certain responses from these people. I think
Mhm.
I don't know if it was them that called the cops or somebody else that also was having negative experiences with this same man called the
Mhm.
police. We were outside. I remember older ladies just kind of still all coming like, "Yes, he was so rude to us," and da, 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 you know what I'm saying? And the police interviewed them and didn't say nothing to me really. And I remember just like that situation kind of, when I thought about the idea of stepping up for the person you care about.
Yeah.
It does not require you being the most rude person in the room. It doesn't require you being the most aggressive person in the room because aggression, oftentimes, like you said, it's a cover up.
Mhm.
You're trying to protect something internal, so you're trying to be the loudest barking dog. I'm telling you, the most dangerous dog in the world is the one that doesn't move.
Yeah.
It's the one that just stays there no matter what you do. And then when you do something truly threatening, that's when that dog moves.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. 100%. I feel like we all need to master the art of de-escalation.
Yes.
I definitely agree with the concept of having to refine what we view as leadership. This is something that I deal with almost on a daily basis as a matriarch. I'm constant. One of the most common pushbacks that I get is that women can't be leaders, and then I say why, and the man proceeds to list off all of this like aggressive, combative, war starting bullshit that really has nothing
Right.
to do with being a true leader. Um,
Right.
in fact, I've taken leadership classes. When we actually get down to the nitty gritty of what separates good leaders from poor leaders is actually the soft skills that make you the best leader. The ability
Right.
to show compassion for others, the ability to communicate, the ability to extend empathy, the emotional intelligence, the
Right.
ability to recognize people's strength and place them in the right situations that adhere to their strengths and not their weaknesses. These
True.
are the things that separate good leaders from bad leaders, and none of it has to do with aggression. um,
Yes. I agree.
in fact, when you're a very high leader, aggression a lot of time isn't even your job. You have soldiers for that. You have an army for that. You have the
Right.
people, and even that requires discipline. It's not just reckless anger. It's not just sheer, using my body weight to just be a brute force at all times. That's not what that is.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and you have to have a lot of patience. and you have to have a very calm temper and demeanor and be able to make sound decisions. And
Mm, that's true.
we are, both genders are capable of this in our way. So
Right.
I think the constant relying on hyperaggression, I'm going to be blatant. I think that it comes from beings who know that they have more physical strength, and they try to use that as the catalyst or like the gatekeeper for leadership. Well, because you
Yeah.
can't lift as much as I can, or because you can't knock a grown man out, then you can't possibly be a leader. That has nothing to do with nothing. That's you using the most rudimentary part of our design to try
Right.
and gatekeep people who have the potential to actually be stellar leaders. And you
Right.
yourself could be a stellar leader if you would raise yourself to a higher standard instead of relying on the most easy thing it is to rely on. That's like me as a woman being like, oh, well, because I have a coochie, you know, I'm a leader. Well, what does that have to do with anything? Like,
Right.
what does the most rudimentary part of my design have to do with my actual qualities as a leader, a decision maker, a problem solver? I think it's a cop out.
Let
That's
me
what I
add to
think.
what you're saying in the point that as a male leader, right? The
Hmm.
idea that, oh, you're gonna rely on the most easiest, or as you put it, the rudimentary, um, um, part of leadership,
Hmm.
the easiest part. When you do that, what ends up happening is the moment that that becomes not easy, you cop out, you fail, you drop.
Hmm.
If all you were doing was just pushing us around because of your weight and your size, the
Hmm.
moment someone's bigger and stronger comes around, what happened? You fold. Because the
Hmm.
only thing you had to lead us was this thing that someone else has more of.
Exactly.
Now, combinations is hard to find.
Hmm.
That's the reason why we put combinations on safes.
Hmm.
So if you have a combination in your leadership or in your abilities, now it's not as easy to be replaced because we value so much things that you have.
Hmm.
And it's hard to find this mix. Like you said, care, protection, the ability to have empathy to others, to understand people, to communicate, and then have strength as well. And when I say strength, I don't even mean physical strength, but
Hmm.
the strength to bring people together, the strength to stand in the room and have that presence.
Hmm.
Those things are not something that you could just go out and buy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yes, there are certain qualities that you can learn for leadership because understanding the human mind and how it works was what they say, knowledge is power. The moment you understand these things, you're going to be able to use it to your benefit. There are some things that are innate that maybe might not be learned, but that stuff is genderless. There are women in this world that you can't force them to bow to you, not because they're just rebellious or whatever the case may be, but just because they are just those dominant people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Respect is given on both sides of the ball. Because when you see that type of dominance, you have to. Because you know what I think too, though. In all
Hmm.
honesty, I think that if you are a person who truly do have vision, then you're able to see value where it exists at.
Hmm.
So if that value exists in that woman, then being able to respect that is just like, okay, damn, okay, cool. It might not be your cup of tea. Maybe as a man, you might not be the type of person that want to have that type of relationship, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean you don't respect it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't mean you don't respect it. You see it and you be like, oh, okay, I see what you got going over there. The same way she might be able to look at you and be like, wow, I see what you got going over there.
Yeah.
Neither one of you might have interest in each other, but you got respect for each other because
Hmm.
y'all probably the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Hmm.
no, I see that. I see that. I definitely understand that. The idea that leadership is not it's not gender filled because sometimes you have men you put in leadership position and he ain't got a lick of leader in him.
At all.
You know what I mean? And he's just sitting there, you know, well, if it comes easy, like some people are like, oh, you're the leader? Let's just follow you. Then he's like, yeah, I'm the leader.
Yeah.
But when there are people who are like, why should I follow you? He ain't got a single reason other than, well, they say I'm the leader.
And that's why a lot of people resort to brute force in those
Right.
situations. When at least in my experience, I have been in community building for a very long time. I started
Right.
working with people to build communities, build tribes since I was about 17, 18 years old.
Right.
And those type of leaders, every single time, that's the exact point where they become aggressive. When they demand leadership and most people give it to them, when they encounter the few people that say, why?
Yeah.
Just why?
Right.
They become irate. They lose their shit. They become
Right.
aggressive. They become
Right.
combative. They resort to um, force to try
Hmm.
because they cannot explain themselves. They cannot justify why they're in the position that they in, and they feel like they
Right.
shouldn't have to. And that's where you got the game fucked up. When it comes to
Yeah.
leadership, you absolutely have to qualify. Go
Right.
to Apple right now and say, I feel I should be the CEO of this company, and tell me if they hand you that position just because you feel like you should have it. Tell me there's no interview process. Tell me there's no qualifications. Tell me, matter of fact, you may not even be able to apply to something like that. They may send a headhunter who invites you to do something like that. You can't just
Come
come
on
in.
now.
I'm applying to be the CEO of Apple.
Right.
What?
Right.
We don't even got to take it that far. Go to Burger King and say, I want to be a manager.
Right.
Okay, well, you have to go to our online portal. You have to fill out an
Right.
application. You have to present your resume. A member of our team will reach out to you. We're going to sit you down. We're going to question you. You're going to be tested. We're going to run a background check. Like, what makes these people think that you should just fall into a position of leadership because you said so?
Right. And I'm gonna tell you something. This is probably like one of the biggest points I've ever noticed in life. Um, I remember listening to this guy talk, and he's like, "Oh well, you know, when you're at J.C. Penney's and you're working as a customer representative, even if you unhappy, you got to put that smile on. You got to put that energy up. You gotta
Mhm.
you gotta make that position the position that you display. Otherwise, you'll get fired. You get fired in a heartbeat. And that's what I recognize that life has offered. It's all positional. Like you're playing your part, and it's almost like a movie. If you're able to have the resume and then go into the interview, but you don't sell it, you're not getting that job.
Mhm.
But that person that has everyone clapping after they walk out, like, man, I could see him being our CEO. After you have a resume that backs that up, what that does is now you have the intangibles, such as the ability to garner the desire for people to want to be led by you,
Mhm.
because that's really what it all comes down to. If you want to be the leader but nobody else wants you to be the leader, unfortunately you not the leader.
Mhm.
Okay, what you say, you trying to have a dictatorship, hostile takeover, be leading by power. And what ends up happening to that is we get coups. People ends up trying to take the person that's in charge out of control because nobody wants you. It's called a revolution.
Nobody wants you. That's how people end up in prison for
Hmm.
life, and all kinds of
Right.
stuff because they
Or
are
dead.
leaders by force. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. I'm not blind to the fact that there are some people who kind of have a bit of a dictator flow, at least from the outside looking in, but on the real surface or the real, inside, people probably might feel like, oh, well, you know what, this is a great leader.
Mhm.
But then you also have to understand that some people are good to the people that they lead directly, but they might not be good to the general population,
Mhm.
i.e. how cartels are, right? Like a headhunter, like a cartel boss leader or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
What do they call those people again? Damn. Um,
I was gonna say
the head of
coppers.
a
No,
cartel.
that's not no.
Yeah,
That's
that's one of them too, though,
Don's.
right? Yeah.
No.
Dons, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, Don, like Don, because Dons are, it's true. And even with them, they might be great at galvanizing these people that's underneath them, and those people are the ones that keep them in power.
Mhm.
The people that might be looking from the outside in, or the people that might be affected day to day by them, they might be thinking, "Oh, this person's a horrible leader." But in reality, if you ever actually were directly impacted by this person's speech, whatever, or you might end up being galvanized too. Like they say
Mhm.
about Pablo Escobar. A lot of people followed him willingly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, but once again, that these are all forms of manipulation and tactics and understanding the
Yeah.
mind and whatever the case may be. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you sit and look at that quantifiable position, because we have cartel bosses that are female, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just using cartel just as a way to speak to it, because you also have CEOs, presidents, and prime ministers of countries that are female. Because at the end of the day, like you said, that thing that's intangible that you can't touch, it's not gender based. It's free form. It's what is and what isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it encompasses a body more than it encompasses a gender. It's not like, oh well, I only have to go to penises. Excuse my language, but I'm only going to dicks. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, no,
Don't work like that.
it don't work like that. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it, Papo.
And that's
But
why
when you
even
got it, you got it.
most of these people are men amongst men, right? There's because a lot of dudes will be like, oh yeah, you don't, because you see men are the ones who built the men, or a small select few, a certain type of men, you know, that's a very
And then
specific
don't
type
lie to
of dude.
ourselves. Don't lie to ourselves. Most things that are built by men are built for women. So come on now.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of hey, listen, and I'm not gonna stop the homosexual community. Do your thing. There's a lot of men who do things to impress other men. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? I
True.
ain't gonna try to, make it seem like that don't exist. But for the most part, society is built to attract a woman or to impress a woman.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two things. So if it's not a woman's design, oh, babe, I think this would be nice, or whatever her ideas in the background,
Ooh, we got a black screen. What happened? Oh, me. Ooh, trying to fix my leg, y'all. I got my leg falling asleep. Oh, let me pause recording just in case.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to have to cut it off here.
Mm-hmm.
Is Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Good.
Yep, yep. So yeah,
Great
once again, thank you for
conversation.
coming through. Check him out, y'all. I'm gonna
Hold on, I
put.
want to make sure I can hear you because I'm having to read your lips right now.
Oh
Oh,
dang, you
you was
can't
giving the
hear.
outro. My bad. Go ahead. Do your thing. Do your thing. My bad. My bad. Go ahead.
Can you still hear? You can't hear? Is it me?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think.
Go ahead. I thought you was
Okay.
doing your outro.
Yeah, I am. So peace out, y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Please subscribe, y'all. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Click the link in the description. I'm gonna put his socials, my socials. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Ooh, ooh.